Hey guys, this is Matt from Airsoft, and I'm here with
Daniel.
and we're gonna explain why we do some of the stuff to like our rifles because somebody asked about it for some reason.
And our BB cats.
All right, so we're gonna start at like the front of our BB gats. So like Dan, explain what you got going on, my guy.
So for my pew-pew sticks, I kind of like to keep them configured the same way as I do with my real stuff, just because that's just what I like to do. So first, I like key mods. Key mods are cool. M-Lock's cool too. Lightweight, they're just comfortable. I don't know. I typically go with either vertical grips, such as this, or AFGs. It's whatever you're comfortable with. The reason why I prefer those two, is because of the lower profile and the fact that I keep my flashlight up here parallel to each other without the pressure pad. Not a huge fan of pressure pads.
I love pressure pads.
I mean, they're cool. It's just like wires and stuff.
I don't know. Like the way I look at a light is that I need it to go off as soon as I can, and I like being able to actuate it in different positions. So, you know, whenever I'm holding my rifle normally, my thumb is always overboard because I'm one of those people.
Gotcha.
So I have the pressure pad right under my thumb. So if I need it, it's just gonna go off. And then if I need to switch hands, I actually have the button on the back of the light to hit with my thumb, or usually it's gonna be in the same position as it was before, so I can still hit that pressure pad if I need to.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I keep like just how when he transitioned over to his right side, or I'm sorry, lefty. That's pretty much how I always hold it. So I have my non-dominant hand on the grip and my thumb indexed right on the pad or the button itself, so that I'm able to push it whenever I want. Because I don't do this C clamp thing. I typically, when I do, the closest thing I do is I keep my thumb pushed outwards almost, so that I have full. I don't know. It's just comfortable to me.
Yeah, I kind of like grips that are either longer and like super straight, or like the grip that is on Dan's gun right now is actually mine. The shorter BCM grips that have a slight angle to them. I like to do the Lucas T-Rex arm thing and actually flip it backwards, so then it's like a super awesome like hand stop, pull it into my shoulder sort of thing.
Super swag.
Even though we don't really have recoil in Airsoft, I like pretending like we do because that's what this whole sport is. It's pretending. Don't you love spotties? Okay. Anyways, so that kind of takes care of the front of the gun. Well, on mine, I also kind of like SBRs and shorter rifles because I got short arms and I'm a short guy. So that's one of the factors of why I chose, you know, a short 416. I also like having the ability to, you know, have a front sight on my gun. If you look at my optic, I'll explain that a little bit later. But in case that goes down, I can always just whip out my rear sight and just throw it on there.
One thing that's really nice about iron sights also, especially if you run an optic that's run off of batteries, if you're in a game, run out of batteries, you can just take that off and you always have your backup sight. So that's one little cool thing to have.
If you even actually use sights. So like a lot of people don't use their sights because they end up looking over their gun because you can see where your BBs are going, which, you know, actually is another fun fact about lights is that you can trace your BBs in the dark, but that's besides the point. So if you're setting up your rifle, really think about the fact if you even need sights. Like Robbie, he doesn't use sights at all. He literally will just go, nah fam, I don't need that shit.
One cool thing about flashlights also, which is this kind of common sense. If you're in a CQB environment, obviously you know that you can cut a corner, and if there's an opponent there, whatever, you can just kind of disorient them or distract them a little bit with the flashlight. Kind of a cool little thing for them, aside from chasing your little pew balls.
So we're gonna kind of go into like just the straight discussion about optics. There's a whole lot of stuff you can say about it. So let's just start with like reflex sights, just right off the bat, because I feel like they're the most common and most widely used.
Yeah, for sure they are.
So a lot of people like reflex sights because you can acquire your target the fastest way, and you know your engagement distances are pretty short. So it's a lot easier to acquire your target, get it on point, and then, you know, blast some dudes.
One little cool thing about reflex sight, and this is actually something you can avoid doing with them. You can do this with any optic, but it's just a lot easier with reflex sights or even like EOTech style optics, people have formed this habit of closing their non-dominant eye and trying to like figure out where they're going to aim and all that stuff. With
Don't do
reflex sights, yeah, you can literally just snap one, and your mind just kind of like works with it, and it makes one big picture. So you end up seeing just your reticle on your target whenever you're aiming. You kind of don't see a lot of this. It's really weird.
The whole point with a reflex sight is to be able to see everything that's around you. So don't close your eyes. It's not what you want. You want your dot over the picture that you're seeing. So, you know, you bring up the gun, you want your entire field of view. So then that way you can see what's around you if you have, because you're going to have multiple targets at once. Definitely at some point, you know.
For sure.
So, yeah, always think about that. Definitely don't close your eyes.
Yeah.
So that leads into optics with variable zoom. I like that capability. I like being able to go from 1 to 4 times, so I can kind of use it as a red dot in those close quarter situations. And whenever I need to look at, you know, stuff that's down the field, I can just flip it into 4 and, you know, figure out who's friendly and whatnot. That's my favorite thing about them. The G&G Elkin replica is probably my favorite 1 to 4 optic that's out there right now. Another reason I really like it is because it actually has iron sights right here on the top. So if I'm not feeling, you know, bearing down, I can still use those whenever I want.
One thing that's really nice about variable zoom optics and the different kinds, it allows for whole different types of reticles, especially if you are a real steel shooter like I am. I personally, on my rifle, I have a primary arms 1 through 6 times zoom, and the same reason with the Elcans. You can go from a 1 for CQB, and essentially it's almost used like a red dot, or in this case a short dot. Yeah, pretty much.
Now there is a little bit of an extra zoom to it because that's just something that's inevitable with glass.
Yeah.
You kind of have more of like a 1.5 thing going on, but it's still not that big a deal that you can keep both of your eyes open and actually like, you know, look down the field and see what you need to see.
Yeah, getting a perfect 1 is literally impossible. You're never going to find that unless you go with like a reflex sight.
Yeah. It's just plain glass. There's no reflections or anything like that in there at all.
Yeah. One other cool thing about variable zoom optics is you can actually see if you may or may not be hitting somebody. If somebody's like 150 feet out and you're not sure if you're hitting them, you can just zoom on in and see if you're dropping in on him or not.
It definitely helps with the I hit you fam sort of thing, like calling other people out when you shouldn't be.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. It's annoying. Okay, so we're going to also go into lasers because a lot of people like running those on their guns. Now, we both personally do not run them. I don't like them because I feel like they just kind of hinder my abilities. They're a little bit too bulky for me. I don't have nods, and I don't usually run with people who do have them. Most of the games that I play are, you know, I do go to Milsom West, but it's just not that common. So most of the time, I just keep it off with the gun. The reason that's beneficial if you have nods or you're running with people who do have nods is because they can lead your laser. You can actually see where you're pointing and shooting a lot easier because you can't always just bear down on the gun and use your optic while you have a night vision nod on.
Yeah. Well, one reason why I don't like lasers is it's kind of a two-way street. It works both ways. So yeah, you're seeing about where your muzzle is pointing at and about where you're shooting, but they're also going to see that red or green beam coming directly at you. So it kind of gives you away. 1 or 2 benefits to lasers, aside from people wearing nods and having that IR capability, is if you're in a CQB environment, you can kind of eliminate the use of a reticle or a reflex sight or anything like that. So where you can just shoulder it, have that laser about where you're going to be shooting at, and just blast away. But also, if you're in an outdoor environment, you can identify things from a distance if you have a laser that's strong enough. Say, usually like the green lasers.
It's super helpful for pointing out where something might be.
Yeah.
But you get that again goes back to the whole two-way street thing. They're probably going to be able to see where your laser is coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So to wrap up, I just want to say that all of the stuff that we do to our guns is going to be completely different from what you want to do. This is just the way we like running our stuff. Yeah. It's most comfortable for us, and that's really all that matters. So make sure to take that into account whenever you're setting up your things. This is just kind of something that we put up because we want you to think about why you should and why you shouldn't do certain things with your setup. So this has been Matt.
This is Daniel.
Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all of that Jimmy Jazz, and have a great day. Bye.